What happened when a harmless prank destroyed a friendship? I never thought one stupid joke could change the course of my entire life. If you asked me back then, I would have said it was harmless. Just another late-night laugh between two best friends who had grown up side by side. That I can still see the way his face fell, the way his shoulders stiffened. That was the moment a crack appeared. And once a crack starts, it doesn't take much for the whole thing to shatter. Mark and I had been inseparable since 3rd grade. Our moms met at the grocery store, bonded over coupons, and soon enough our houses became extensions of each other's. I spent more nights at his place than my own. We shared everything: video games, crushes, even half-finished dreams about the kind of men we'd become. Everyone joked we were like brothers. In some ways, I loved him more than my actual brother. By senior year, we had a reputation. If you saw one of us, the other wasn't far behind. Teachers rolled their eyes when we cracked inside jokes across classrooms. Girls called us troublemakers but smiled anyway. We thought we were untouchable. And maybe that's why the prank felt like nothing at first. Because we believed nothing could come between us. It started at a party. One of those summer nights where the whole neighborhood showed up, music blasting from someone's car stereo, the smell of grilled burgers thick in the humid air. Mark was flirting with Jenna, the girl he'd been crushing on for months. He had that look in his eyes, hopeful but nervous. I should have left him alone. I should have let him have his moment. Instead, fueled by too many beers and a crowd eager for laughs, I pulled the stunt that destroyed us. I took his phone. Simple as that. He'd left it on the porch while he went to grab drinks, and without thinking, I typed out a text to Jenna from his number. Something crude, something meant to be funny in the dumb, reckless way teenagers find hilarious. Bet you'd look even better without that top. I hit send and passed the phone around to a few buddies. They howled with laughter. By the time Mark came back, Jenna's face was red, and she was gone. He didn't understand at first. He just stood there, confused, asking what happened. When I explained, expecting him to laugh it off, his expression hardened in a way I'd never seen before. "You think that's funny?" he said quietly. I tried to downplay it, grinning like it was no big deal. "Come on, man, it's just a joke. Should get over it." But he didn't laugh. Not even a smile. Instead, he walked away, leaving me standing there with the crowd of idiots who'd egged me on. The laughter died quickly after that, and for the first time in years I felt alone. The fallout came fast. Jenna told everyone at school what happened. Her friends whispered about how creepy Mark was. He tried to explain it wasn't him, but people already had their story. I told myself I'd clear it up, that I'd admit it was me. But every time I opened my mouth, fear shut me down. Fear of being hated. Fear of losing the image I'd built. So I stayed silent. And with my silence, I stabbed my best friend in the back. The weeks that followed were brutal. Mark stopped talking to me. He stopped sitting with me at lunch, stopped showing up to our hangouts, stopped answering my calls. I thought he just needed time. But time only made the wound fester. By the time football season started, he wasn't just ignoring me. He was glaring like he wanted to erase me from existence. One afternoon, I caught him outside the locker room. I tried to apologize, stumbling over half-baked words. He listened in silence, his jaw clenched, his fists tight at his sides. Finally, he said, "You ruined my life. Do you even get that? You made me look like some disgusting creep to the one girl I actually cared about." His voice cracked then, a mixture of anger and heartbreak. I wanted to say I didn't mean it, that it was a mistake, that I would take it back if I could. But the words sounded empty even in my head. Because the truth was, I had meant it in that moment. I'd wanted the laugh. I'd wanted the spotlight. And it had cost him everything. He walked away again, and this time I knew it wasn't temporary. Something between us had snapped. The real nightmare didn't begin until months later, when rumors started that someone had been messing with Jenna's car after school. Notes appeared in her locker, scribbled threats that made her cry in the bathroom. And the fingers pointed, of course, at Mark. Because of me. Because of the prank. Because once people see you as something, it's nearly impossible to convince them otherwise. And when the police showed up at his house one night, sirens cutting through the quiet suburb, I realized the monster I'd unleashed wasn't just going to cost me a friend. It was going to ruin his entire future. The worst part, deep down, I wasn't sure he'd forgive me even if I told the truth. That was the night I started keeping secrets. Secrets that would eventually tear everything apart. When the cops knocked on Mark's door, the whole neighborhood gathered like vultures. I stood on the edge of the crowd, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. His mom answered, pale and confused, while the officers asked for Mark by name. He came out a minute later, still in a wrinkled t-shirt and gym shorts, looking like he'd just been pulled from a nap. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found mine. And in that instant, I knew he thought I'd done it. They questioned him right there on the porch. Asked about the notes, about the car that had been scratched up in the school parking lot, about Jenna's complaints. Mark kept denying it, his voice low but steady. He looked more angry than scared, but his hands were trembling. I wanted to scream that it wasn't him, that the prank was mine, that I'd started this whole nightmare. But I stayed silent, my throat locked like someone had poured concrete inside me. By the end of the night, Mark wasn't arrested, but the damage was done. Neighbors were whispering. Teachers were calling emergency meetings, and Jenna's parents were demanding he be expelled. The rumor mill spun faster than wildfire, and every spin dragged him deeper into the flames. At school, the divide was brutal. People who used to high-five Mark now avoided him. Some shoved notes into his locker just to watch his reaction. Others whispered "stalker" under their breath as he passed in the halls. And me? I kept my head down, pretending I wasn't the reason his life was unraveling. One night, guilt finally drove me to confess to my mom, at least. We were in the kitchen, just the two of us. She was rinsing dishes, humming softly, when I blurted it out. I sent the text, I said. My voice sounded small, pathetic. It was me, not Mark. She froze, her hands in the suds, staring out the window like maybe if she ignored me, the words would vanish. When she finally turned, her expression was unreadable. "Do you realize what you've done?" she whispered. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "That's why I'm telling you. I need to fix it. I need to tell the truth." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You'll ruin yourself. Do you understand that? College applications, scholarships, your reputation, it will all be gone. People won't forgive something like this. But Mark will survive," she cut in, her voice sharper now. "You have to think about yourself. You're my son, and I won't watch you throw your future away for a mistake." That night, I realized something terrifying. My mother cared more about preserving me than saving him. And if she wouldn't let me tell the truth, then who would? The guilt twisted deeper. I started seeing Mark everywhere, even when he wasn't there. His glare in the locker room, his shadow at the end of hallways, his voice in my head asking why I'd betrayed him. I stopped sleeping. When I did manage to drift off, I'd wake up sweating, hearing the echo of Jenna crying in the girls' bathroom. Things escalated when Jenna's parents went public. They called the school board, demanding Mark be expelled immediately for harassment. They even filed for a restraining order. Mark's dad tried to defend him, but you could see the exhaustion on his face. His mom just looked broken, like she didn't know who her son was anymore. At lunch one day, Mark cornered me. He slammed his tray down next to mine so hard the soda spilled across the table. "Do you enjoy this?" he hissed, his face inches from mine. "Watching me fall apart while you sit here acting innocent?" I swallowed hard. "Mark, I swear, I didn't—" "Don't," he snapped. His eyes burned like fire. "You think I don't know it was you? You've always wanted the attention, the laughs, the spotlight. Well, congratulations. You got it. You destroyed me in the process." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. And then he said something that froze the air in my lungs. "I'm going to make you feel it. Every ounce of what I'm going through, you'll know." He left before I could respond, leaving his untouched lunch behind. From that day forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me. In class, I'd catch him staring. At football practice, he lingered near the sidelines, his gaze heavy, unblinking. Once, I woke in the middle of the night to find a message carved into the hood of my car. Traitor, I told myself it wasn't him, that someone else was stirring the pot. But deep down I knew. The boy I'd once called my brother wasn't going to let this go. And then Jenna's car was set on fire, right there in her driveway. Flames lit up the street while neighbors ran with buckets and phones dialed 911. The police said it was arson. They said Mark's shoe prints were found nearby. He swore he was innocent. I knew he probably was. But who would believe him now? I stood in the crowd again, just like the night the cops came. Mark's face flickered in the glow of the fire. And for the first time, I saw not just anger, but something darker. Something that told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The fire changed everything. Jenna's family moved her to another school within a week. They wanted her safe, far away from Mark. But rumors don't move as quickly as people. By the time she left, the entire town already believed he was guilty. Everywhere I went, people whispered, "That boy's a psycho. Did you hear what he did?" Teachers stopped looking him in the eye. The principal called him into the office almost daily. Even the cops parked their cruiser near his house, as if waiting for him to snap. And me? I was still silent. My mom's words haunted me, "Think about your future." Every time I thought about confessing, she'd remind me what it would do to my college applications, my chances at scholarships. "Don't be stupid," she'd say, her eyes sharp. "You want to waste your whole life for a boy who already hates you." But I couldn't stop thinking about him, about how his hands trembled when he tried to hold a tray in the cafeteria, about how his dad's shoulders sagged lower every day, like carrying invisible weight. I saw the way his little sister clung to him, asking why everyone was so mean. And I knew this was my fault. Mark stopped trying to defend himself. Something in him snapped after the fire. He came to school in silence, head down, fists always clenched. He didn't bother correcting the lies anymore, didn't deny anything. Instead, he leaned into the role they'd shoved onto him. People said he was dangerous, so he became dangerous. The first fight happened in the parking lot. Some guy from the soccer team called him a creep and shoved him. Mark didn't hesitate, he tackled the guy, fists flying, until teachers pulled him off. They suspended him for a week. When he came back, he was different. Colder, quieter. The boy who once laughed with me until our stomachs hurt now stared through people like they were ghosts. One night, he showed up at my house. I'll never forget it. I was sitting in my room, pretending to study, when I heard a tap on the window. I pulled back the curtain, and there he was standing in the dark, hood pulled low, eyes glinting with something I didn't recognize. I opened the window just enough to whisper, "What are you doing here?" He smirked, but it wasn't the kind of smirk I remembered. It was twisted, hard, just checking on my best friend. The words stung. Best friend. Like an accusation. "Mark, you shouldn't be here," I whispered. "If someone sees." He cut me off. "Relax. No one saw." He paused, then leaned closer. But you saw, didn't you? You saw what they did to me. You saw how fast they turned. I nodded, my throat tight. His voice dropped to a whisper. You and me. We know the truth. And I promise you this, I'm not going down alone. Then he slipped into the night, leaving me frozen at the window. From that moment, I lived in constant dread. Every sound outside made jump. Every hallway glance made my stomach twist. I couldn't tell if he wanted revenge or reconciliation or both. The truth was, I'd built a cage around him with one stupid text. And now he was threshing inside it, ready to break out. And I didn't know if I'd survive when he did. Things at home weren't much better. My dad found out what happened, at least the public version of it, and made his opinion clear. That boy's trouble, he said at dinner, stabbing his fork into his steak. You keep your distance. Last thing we need is you getting dragged into his mess. If only he knew. I felt like I was splitting in two. The good son, keeping quiet, protecting his future. And the guilty coward, watching his best friend's life collapse. Every day, the weight got heavier. And then, one evening, it cracked wide open. I was walking home from practice when I heard footsteps behind me. Quick, deliberate. I turned, and there was Mark. His face was shadowed under the streetlight, but I could see the fury burning in his eyes. You're awfully quiet these days, he said. His voice was calm, too calm. Almost like you're hiding something. My chest tightened. Mark, please. I didn't. Yes, you did, he snapped, stepping closer. His breath was hot against my face. You ruined everything, and you still don't have the guts to admit it. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then he leaned in, his words barely above a whisper. Tell the truth. Or I'll make sure everyone knows anyway. And when they do, it won't just be your future that's ruined. He stepped back into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as he'd appeared. That was the night I realized my silence wasn't just destroying him. It was about to destroy me too. After that night on the street, I couldn't shake the feeling that every shadow held Mark's eyes. Every whisper in the hallway sounded like his voice. He hadn't just threatened me. He'd promised me something. A reckoning. The worst part was I deserved it. I started avoiding places we used to go. The basketball court, the diner where we split fries, even the lake where we'd skipped rocks for hours. Each spot felt poison now, haunted by memories of laughter that would never come back. My life shrank down to school, home, repeat. I thought if I kept my head down, he'd move on. But Mark wasn't the type to move on. The first sign came a week later. I opened my locker to find my own handwriting staring back at me. A copy of the text I'd sent Jenna scrawled across a sheet of notebook paper, taped to the inside of the door. Bet you'd look even better without that top. My stomach dropped. No one else knew. Not even my dad. Just me. And now, Mark. I ripped the paper down, crumpling it into my pocket before anyone saw. My hands shook so badly I could barely spin my lock shut. He wasn't bluffing anymore. He had proof. Proof that could ruin me with a single whisper. That night, I confronted him after practice. He was sitting on the bleachers, hoodie pulled up, staring at the empty court like he was waiting for me. You put that note in my locker, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't look at me, just smirked. Maybe I did. Maybe someone else did. Doesn't really matter, does it? Why are you doing this? I demanded. You want me to admit it? Fine. I did it. I sent the text. But it was a joke. I didn't mean for everything to. Stop. His voice cut through the gym like a blade. He finally turned, his eyes hollow. You don't get it. You don't get to decide what it meant. You don't get to erase what it did to me. You destroyed my life with one joke. And now you want forgiveness. I swallowed hard. I just want it to stop. He stood then, stepping closer, and for a second I thought he might actually hit me. But instead, he whispered, "It stops when I say it does." Then he brushed past me, leaving me alone in the echoing gym. After that, things escalated fast. My math teacher pulled me aside, saying an anonymous email had accused me of cheating. It wasn't true, but the look in her eyes said she wasn't sure. Later, the coach benched me for missing a mandatory meeting I'd never been told about. Someone had signed my name on a fake absence slip. And then there was the photo. A picture of me, drunk at a party, passed out on the couch with a bottle in my hand. It circulated through school in less than a day. I hadn't even known the photo existed. But Mark had. I knew it was him. He didn't need to say it. His silence, his watchful stares, the way he walked past me in the hall without a word, that was enough. He was pulling the strings, one by one, unraveling my world the way I'd unraveled his. At home, my parents noticed. My mom accused me of slacking. My dad lectured me about responsibility. I wanted to scream the truth, to throw everything on the table, but my mom's voice echoed in my head. Think about your future. So I lied. I smiled. I said everything was fine, while inside, everything was falling apart. One night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You're next." That's all it said. 2 words, but they kept me awake until dawn. I stared at the ceiling, hearing every creak in the house, every gust of wind, wondering if Mark was outside my window again. By the time morning came, I looked like a ghost. At school, Mark wasn't there. No one had seen him all day. By lunch, rumors spread. He'd been suspended again, this time for fighting a teacher who tried to break up an argument. Part of me felt relief. Maybe with him gone, I could breathe. But when I got home, I found another note tucked under my windshield wiper. My handwriting again. The same text to Jenna, copied word for word. And beneath it, a new line in jagged black ink. Tick, tick, tick. I stood in the driveway, staring at the paper, my hands shaking so violently I nearly dropped it. He wasn't done. No. He was just getting started. And for the first time, I realized Mark didn't just want revenge. He wanted me to break. The note with tick, tick wouldn't leave my mind. I folded it into my pocket, but the words burned hotter than fire. Every tick was a reminder that I was on borrowed time. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps. Every shadow outside the window looked like him. When I did drift off, I dreamed of flames Jenna's car burning again, but this time with me inside. By morning, I was sick with dread. I tried to show my mom the note, but the second she saw it was in my handwriting. Her face hardened. "Stop this nonsense," she snapped, waving it away. "Do you have any idea how paranoid you sound? First the grades, now this? You need to focus on school, not imaginary threats." "But it's not imaginary," I shouted, louder than I meant to. "It's Mark, he's—" Her hand cut the air like a blade. "Enough. You don't mention that boy in this house again." My dad barely looked up from his newspaper. "She's right. That kid's poison. Keep your distance, or he'll drag you down with him." And just like that, I was alone again. At school, things only got worse. My locker was trashed books ripped apart, pages scrawled with insults. Liar, fake, traitor. I caught kids snickering as I picked up the shredded pieces. I wanted to believe Mark wasn't behind all of it, that maybe it was just vultures circling the carcass of my reputation. But then I found another note stuffed inside my torn notebook. "Tell the truth, or I will." That night, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, it was a photo. My backyard, taken from outside the fence. My bedroom window glowing faintly in the distance. My stomach dropped. He wasn't just watching. He was here. I ran downstairs, breathless, trying to show my dad the picture. But by the time I handed him my phone, the message was gone. Deleted. Dad sighed, setting his paper aside. You've been spending too much time online. All this drama, it's rotting your brain. Take a break from your phone. He didn't believe me. He thought I was spiraling. Maybe I was. The next few days blurred together, every hour marked by paranoia. I checked over my shoulder constantly, half expecting Mark to be there, smiling that twisted smile. He wasn't in school, still suspended, but his presence was everywhere. Notes appeared in my backpack, my desk, even the bathroom mirror written in soap. Tick, tick. I started skipping meals. Sleep became impossible. My hands shook so badly during a math quiz I could barely hold my pencil. The teacher pulled me aside afterward, asking if something was wrong at home. I wanted to spill everything, but when I opened my mouth, all I heard was my mom's voice, think about your future. So I said nothing, and that silence, again, betrayed me. Friday night, the breaking point came. My parents were out for dinner, leaving me alone. I tried to distract myself with video games, but my hands were too shaky. That's when I heard it. A knock at the back door. Not loud, just deliberate. My blood went cold. I crept to the kitchen, peeking through the curtain. At first, I saw nothing. Just the empty yard, shadows stretching long in the porch light. I told myself it was my imagination. But then another knock. 3 slow raps. I froze. Who's there? My voice cracked. Silence. My heart hammered as I inched closer. And that's when I saw it. A folded paper, slid under the door. I picked it up with trembling hands. In my handwriting again. Time's up. I dropped it like it was on fire, backing away until my shoulders hit the wall. My breathing came fast, ragged, my ears buzzing. I wanted to call the cops, but what would I say? That my former best friend was leaving me creepy notes? That it was in my handwriting? They'd laugh me out of the station. The phone buzzed again. Another unknown message. A video this time. My front yard. My parents' car pulling into the driveway. My mom stepping out, laughing, her voice muffled but recognizable. The video cut off abruptly. I bolted to the window. Nothing. No one. Just the empty street. But the knowledge sank in like ice. He wasn't just watching me. He was watching my family. When my parents walked in, smiling, carrying leftovers, I could barely look at them. Because I knew if Mark wanted to, he could tear everything apart. And maybe that was his plan all along. That night, lying in the dark, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was a game. And I was already losing. I stopped feeling safe in my own house. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of headlights outside the window, I swore it was him. Mark had woven himself into my nerves like poison, and I couldn't shake him out. I tried to convince myself it was just fear, that maybe he wasn't actually there. But the evidence kept piling up. Monday morning, I opened my backpack to find a Polaroid photo. It was me, asleep in my bed. My skin went ice cold. Someone had been inside my room. I staggered into the hallway, clutching the photo, and nearly collided with my mum. She frowned at the panic on my face. What now? I shoved the picture at her. He was in my room. Look, this is me sleeping. She took one glance, then her lips pressed into a thin line. You printed this off yourself, didn't you? What? No. Why would I? Her voice rose, sharp as a whip. Because you want attention. Because you're unraveling. I told you. Stop with these stories before you ruin everything. She shoved the photo back into my chest and stormed off. I stood there shaking, feeling the floor tilt beneath me. She didn't believe me. She thought I was losing my mind. And maybe that's what Mark wanted all along. At school it only got worse. The whispers had shifted from Mark to me. People were saying I looked strung out, paranoid, unstable. Someone even spread a rumor that I'd started taking pills. By lunch, half the cafeteria was staring at me like I was the freak. I knew exactly who had planted it. That night, I locked my bedroom door, shoved a chair under the knob, even piled boxes in front of it. I thought maybe I could finally get some sleep. But around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of scratching. Slow, deliberate, right outside my door. My chest seized. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and aimed it at the door. The scratching stopped instantly. I sat there frozen for hours, the beam trained on the knob, waiting for it to turn. It never did. By morning, my dad was furious. "You think we don't notice what you're doing?" he barked, glaring at the barricade I'd built. "This paranoia stops now. No more locked doors in this house." I tried to explain, but he cut me off. "Enough. You're grounded. No phone after 10. And if I hear another word about that boy, I swear you won't leave this house until graduation." So now, not only was I alone, but trapped. Exactly where Mark wanted me. Later that week, the final straw came. I was called into the principal's office. My stomach dropped the second I saw my parents already there, sitting stiffly across from his desk. The principal adjusted his glasses, his voice measured. "We received an anonymous tip about some concerning material on school property." He slid a folder across the desk. My heart stopped when I saw what was inside. Printouts of messages. Dozens of them. All written from a fake account, but signed with my name. Messages to Jenna, to teachers, even to kids I barely knew. Creepy, threatening, vile things. "This account traces back to your home Wi-Fi," the principal continued. "Do you understand the severity of this?" I shook my head frantically. It wasn't me. I swear, I didn't. But my mom's face said everything. Disappointment. Shame. She believed it. My dad's jaw was tight, his fists clenched on his knees. The principal leaned forward. "You're suspended until further notice. And given the nature of these messages, the school board is considering expulsion." My world tilted. Expulsion. My future. Shattered in an instant. And all because of Mark. When we left the office, my mom refused to look at me. My dad muttered under his breath. Pathetic. I wanted to scream the truth, to tell them everything. But what good would it do? They already thought I was guilty. Mark had buried me, and no one was coming to dig me out. That night, as I sat in my room, staring at the walls, another message buzzed onto my phone. "You feel it now, don't you? The weight? The way no one believes you." Another message followed. "Good. We're just getting started." I dropped the phone onto the floor, clutching my head in my hands, rocking back and forth. He wasn't going to stop until there was nothing left of me, and I was starting to believe he might succeed. But the next message changed everything. "Meet me. Midnight. The old lake. Alone." My hands shook as I read it over and over. Mark wanted to see me, face to face, and I knew this meeting could end everything, one way or another. I don't know what possessed me to go. Maybe guilt. Maybe desperation. Maybe the part of me that still remembered laughing with him on the basketball court, thinking nothing could touch us. But at 11:45 that night, I slipped out my window and walked to the old lake, the one where we used to skip rocks and dream about the future we'd never have. The air was sharp with cold. The moon reflected off the still water like a cracked mirror. Every crunch of gravel under my sneakers echoed too loud, like the night itself was holding its breath. He was already there. Mark stood at the edge of the dock, hoodie pulled low, hands jammed into his pockets. He didn't move when I approached, didn't even look at me at first. just stared out at the black water. I swallowed hard. I came. His head turned slowly, and the sight of his face made my chest tighten. He looked older somehow. Harder. Shadows carved beneath his eyes. This wasn't the boy I grew up with. This was someone else entirely. You look like hell, he said finally, his voice flat. I almost laughed. Guess that makes two of us. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, heavy and unbearable, until I blurted the words that had been choking me for months. I'm sorry. His jaw clenched, but he didn't look away. I sent the text, I said, my voice trembling. It was me, not you. I thought it was funny. I thought people would laugh. I didn't mean for it to go this far, but it was me. The confession hung in the cold air. My chest felt lighter and heavier all at once. Mark's lips curved not into a smile, but something darker. You think that fixes anything? You think saying sorry erases what you did? No, I whispered. I had to say it. Finally, he stepped closer. His eyes locked onto mine, sharp as glass. You ruined me. Do you get that? Everything I had, my reputation, my friends, my shot at college, it's gone. Burned to the ground. And now you're what? The victim? I never wanted this, I said, my throat tight. I ruined you. Yes, but I ruined myself too. Look at me, I'm a wreck. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I've lost everything. For a second, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not forgiveness, but recognition. A shared destruction. Then his voice dropped, low and dangerous. Good. That's exactly what I wanted. The words hit me like a punch. Before I could respond, he pulled something from his pocket. My heart stopped. It was a lighter. A cheap red plastic one, flicking sparks into the night air. The flames reflected in his eyes. You know what fire feels like, don't you? He said softly. The heat. The way it eats everything it touches. That's what you did to me. You lit the match and I burned. I took a step back, fear knotting in my stomach. Mark, don't what? He snapped, his voice cracking. Don't show you how it feels? Don't make you understand? He flicked the lighter again, the tiny flame dancing between us. The reflection of it rippled across the black water, turning the dock into a stage for something terrible. Mark, please, I whispered. This isn't you. This isn't... Don't tell me who I am. He roared, the sound echoing across the lake. Birds scattered from the trees, wings flapping wildly in the dark. I flinched, my body frozen. He took another step forward, the flame trembling in his hand. I should end it. Right here. Make you feel every second of the hell you put me through. My throat went dry. I thought about running, but my legs wouldn't move. I thought about screaming, that no one would hear. And then he stopped. His hand shook. The flame flickered, sputtered, then died. He dropped the lighter onto the dock with a dull clatter. His chest heaved. His face twisted in anguish. He turned away, gripping the railing so hard his knuckles went white. I hate you, he whispered. His voice cracked, raw and broken. But I don't know if I can stop needing you to pay. I didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, heart pounding, watching the boy I once called my brother break apart in front of me. Finally, he turned back. His eyes were wet, but his expression was hard. This isn't over, he said. Not until you've lost as much as I have. And with that, he walked into the shadows, leaving me alone on the dock, the cold wind biting through my clothes. I stared at the lighter lying between the boards, the smell of smoke still lingering in the air. And I knew next time he wouldn't stop himself. After the lake, I lived in terror of the next time. I kept picturing that lighter, the way his hand trembled as if he was deciding whether to burn me alive right there on the dock. I told myself I'd go to the police. I even walked halfway to the station one afternoon. But then I stopped. What would I say? That my former best friend threatened me. That he left notes in my handwriting. That he broke into my room and took photos while I slept. It all sounded insane. And after the fake messages, the suspension, the rumors, who would believe me? They'd probably think I was harassing him. So I stayed quiet. Again. And that silence gave him more power. The next blow landed 2 days later. I walked into school and felt it immediately, the eyes, the whispers, the smirks. My stomach knotted as I made my way to first period. Then I saw it, taped to the classroom door. A printed email, supposedly from me. The words made me want to vomit. Vile things about Jenna. Graphic, cruel, disgusting. Signed with my name. I ripped it down, but the damage was done. Everyone had already read it. Some laughed, some shook their heads in disgust. One girl muttered, "Sick freak," as she brushed past me. By lunch, the principal had called me in again. My parents were there, their faces tight with fury. "This is the last straw," the principal said. "The school board has voted. You're expelled." The word hit like a hammer. Expelled. My future. Gone in an instant. My mom's face was stone. My dad's jaw clenched so hard, I thought his teeth would crack. "We'll deal with you at home," he said coldly. And that's when it truly sank in: Mark had won. When we got home, the silence was suffocating. My parents didn't speak to me. They didn't have to. Their disappointment was louder than words. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the walls of my room. Everything I'd built, my grades, my reputation, my plans, it was all rubble now. And in the wreckage, only one truth remained. Mark wasn't done. He wanted me broken. He wanted me empty. And he was getting closer every day. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Another unknown number. My hands shook as I opened the message. A video. I hit play. It was my house, my living room, filmed in shaky, grainy footage. The camera moved slowly, panning across the couch, the family photos on the wall, the TV. Then it tilted upward, toward the staircase, toward my bedroom. The video cut off. My breath came in shallow gasps. He'd been inside. Again. I stumbled to my door, heart pounding, but stopped myself. My parents wouldn't believe me. They'd probably think I'd filmed it myself. And if I told them, they'd just lock me down harder. So I sat there, back pressed against the wall, clutching a baseball bat until the sun came up. The next morning, I looked like a zombie. My mom barely glanced at me. My dad muttered something about responsibility and stormed off to work. I thought maybe I could survive if I just kept my head down. But survival wasn't part of Mark's plan. By evening, another message buzzed through. This time, it was a picture. My parents' bedroom. Taken from the doorway. And beneath it, a message. "They'll believe me before they believe you." I dropped the phone. Bile rising in my throat. He wasn't just after me anymore. He was circling them, pulling them into the game. I ran to my mom, desperate, shoving the phone at her. "Look, do you see this? He was in your room. He's messing with all of us now." She barely glanced at the screen. "Enough," she snapped. "I don't know how you keep making these things, but it ends tonight. You're grounded. No phone, no excuses." She yanked it from my hand, turned it off, and walked away. I stood there, hollow, realizing the truth. He was right. They'd believe him before they believed me. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I heard it again. The scratching. Slow. Deliberate. But this time, it wasn't at my door. It was at the window. I turned my head, heart slamming into my ribs. And in the pale glow of the streetlight, I saw him, Mark, standing outside, his face pressed against the glass, his smile wide, terrifying. I stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. By the time I looked again, he was gone. Just the empty night, silent and endless. But I knew he'd been there, and I knew the game wasn't over. It was only getting darker. I didn't sleep after seeing his face at the window. How could I? Every blink felt like a risk. Every second of darkness a chance for him to slip inside. By dawn, my body was trembling from exhaustion, but my mind wouldn't let me rest. At breakfast, my mom frowned at me. "You look sick." I almost laughed. Sick? No, I was hunted. But I bit my tongue, because the last thing I needed was another lecture about being dramatic. My dad didn't even look up from his coffee. That's when I realized I was completely on my own. By afternoon, I started planning. If no one believed me, then I had to protect myself. I dug through the garage, grabbing the old aluminum baseball bat, stuffing it under my bed. I kept a flashlight in my knitstand, my sneakers by the window in case I needed to run. I felt insane, but insanity was safer than helplessness. 2 nights later, the storm broke. It was just past midnight when I woke to a sound downstairs. Not scratching this time. Not tapping. Something heavier. The creak of floorboards under weight. I froze, straining my ears. Another creak. A muffled thud. My chest clenched. I slid silently from bed, clutching the bat, every nerve in my body screaming. I crept to my door, eased it open just enough to peer down the dark hallway. That's when I heard it. A voice. Low, familiar. Tick, tick, tick. My blood ran cold. I gripped the bat tighter, forcing my legs to move. Step by step, I crept down the stairs. The house was pitch black except for the faint glow of the microwave clock. I followed the sound into the living room. Empty. Then movement in the corner of my eye. I spun, heart slamming against my ribs. And there he was. Mark, standing in the doorway, hood pulled low, eyes glinting in the dark. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just silence, thick and suffocating. Then he smiled. "You finally admitted it to me," he said softly. "But not to them. Not to anyone else. And that's the problem." My hands shook on the bat. "Get out." He stepped closer, unbothered. "You don't get it, do you? I'm not here to hurt you. Not yet. I'm here to make you confess. To make them see who you really are." My voice cracked. "You broke into my house. You're stalking me. You've ruined everything." "Ruined?" He laughed bitterly. "You ruined me. All I'm doing is balancing the scales." He took another step forward. My instincts screamed to swing the bat, but my arms felt heavy, paralyzed by fear. "Say it," he demanded, his voice sharp. "Say it to their faces. Tell them it was you." My throat closed. My parents were asleep upstairs. If I yelled, if I woke them, they'd come down and they'd see him. Maybe then they'd finally believe me. But another thought struck like lightning. What if they didn't? What if they believed him instead? The hesitation cost me. Mark lunged. He shoved me back against the wall, the bat clattering to the floor. My head slammed against the drywall, pain exploding behind my eyes. "Confess," he snarled, his face inches from mine. His breath was hot, furious, unhinged. "Tell them what you did, or I swear I'll tear your whole life apart piece by piece until there's nothing left." I struggled, kicking, clawing at his arms. Adrenaline surged, and I managed to shove him off just enough to grab the bat. I swung wildly, the metal connecting with his shoulder. He grunted, stumbling back, but didn't fall. His eyes burned feral. "You think you can fight me?" he hissed. "You're weaker than you've ever been, and I'll keep breaking you until you crawl." The crash woke my parents. I heard my dad's voice from upstairs, groggy and angry. "What the hell is going on down there?" Mark's face twisted. "Perfect timing," he whispered. Footsteps pounded down the stairs. My mom's gasp cut through the dark, and in that instant, Mark's expression changed. He dropped the bat from my hands, shoved me hard against the wall again, and shouted loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. "Why are you doing this to me? Haven't you done enough?" I froze. To my parents, it must have looked like I was the attacker. Me holding the bat. Mark bruised, his voice trembling like the victim. My mom rushed to him, hands on his arm. "Mark, what happened?" He looked up at her, eyes wet, face perfectly broken. "He won't stop," he whispered. "He keeps blaming me for everything. I just came here to ask him why." I stared in shock, the words caught in my throat. My dad's face darkened as he turned on me. "You're out of control." "No!" I shouted, my voice breaking. "He's lying. He's been doing this to me for months. He's the one who—" But Mark cut me off with a choked sob. "Please, don't let him hurt me again." The room spun, my parents' eyes full of judgment, anger, pity all locked on me. And in that moment, I knew. Mark had just won them too. The look in my parents' eyes that night is burned into me forever. They didn't see their son. They saw a monster. Mark had played his role perfectly, trembling, broken, whispering through crocodile tears. My mom fussed over his arm while my dad barked at me to drop the act. And me? I stood there shaking, staring at the boy I once trusted with everything, realizing he'd taken even this from me. "Go upstairs," my dad growled. His voice was low, dangerous. "We'll deal with you in the morning." I didn't. My voice cracked, useless. It wasn't me. "Hey! Now!" The word cracked through the room like a gunshot. I flinched, heart pounding, and stumbled back toward the stairs. Mark met my eyes as I turned, and for a split second, the mask slipped. His lips curled into a tiny, satisfied smile. He'd won. Again. I barely slept, curled up on my bed like a prisoner waiting for sentencing. Every sound in the house made me jolt. I half expected him to sneak into my room again. But when morning came, he was gone. My parents wouldn't say a word about him. They just told me to pack a bag. By noon, I was sitting in the office of a psychologist 3 towns over. My mom's voice trembled as she explained how disturbed I'd been acting. My dad listed my supposed outbursts, his arms crossed tight across his chest. The doctor nodded sympathetically, took notes, asked questions I couldn't answer because the truth sounded insane. When I tried, he just wrote faster. By the end of the week, I wasn't in school anymore. I was in treatment. Group therapy, individual sessions, medication I didn't want. My parents told everyone I was getting help, that I was finally dealing with my issues. Mark didn't need to lift another finger. He'd buried me completely, that wasn't the end. One night, weeks later, I sat in the sterile dorm of the treatment center, staring at the ceiling when a letter arrived. No return address. My name scrawled across the envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "We're even now. But don't forget you lit the match first." No signature. Just those words. I ripped it to pieces, but it didn't matter. The message was carved into me. Even now, years later, I still hear the echoes. I got out of the treatment center eventually, but the stain never left. Colleges saw my record, the disciplinary issues, the expulsion. Jobs saw the gaps, the unexplained history. People in town never looked at me the same. Parents pulled their kids closer. Teachers avoided eye contact. Mark left after graduation. Rumor was he moved states away, maybe even changed his name. Some people said he got into trouble again. Others swore he cleaned himself up. I don't know. And part of me doesn't want to, because he's still with me. Not in person, but in the way I flinch at a knock on the door. The way I jolt awake at night, certain there's someone at the window. The way I second-guess every word I speak, wondering how it could be twisted, weaponized. I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I'd confessed right away. If I'd told the truth the second Jenna stormed off at that party. Maybe Mark would still be my friend. Maybe his life wouldn't have burned down. Maybe mine wouldn't have either. But I didn't. I chose silence. I chose my future. And in the end, I lost it anyway. That's the part that haunts me most. Not the notes. Not the photos. Not the fear. The fact that he was right. I did light the match. And once fire starts, there's no putting it back. That was the day I stopped recognizing who I was.